Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin tonight with the price drop heard round the nation. Gas prices fell overnight as Canada's consumer carbon tax vanished. Ithil Musa has more.
Canada's consumer carbon tax is officially dead, and many drivers aren't exactly mourning it.
Definitely a good thing for the rest of us, for, people that fills up gas every day,
It really affects a lot of people who are living paycheck to paycheck and minimum wage.
Experts say savings at the gas pump will be the biggest, most immediate change. The price on pollution for gasoline translated to nearly 18 cents per liter. But today, in cities across the country, the cost of fuel was down.
It will no longer be free to pollute.
The consumer carbon tax was introduced by the Liberal government in 2019 to incentivize Canadians to transition to greener energy sources.
It's something that for a long time, right, people from a whole range of different perspectives came to accept as the best market-driven solution to climate change, and now it's dead.
Quebec is now the only province with a price on carbon. But this environmentalist says there are still things the federal government can do.
We could increase the restrictions on heavy industry that's producing most of the pollution. That's a really effective way to do it, and we're hoping to see that happen. There's also many other things we can do, like encourage more solar and wind electricity to replace the coal and oil and gas that we get electricity from now.
The federal carbon tax rebate is also coming to an end, but eligible Canadians can expect one last payment later this month. Ithil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Northerners saw an immediate drop at the pump. That's if they were paying attention to the price. Here's what people in Yellowknife and Dawson City had to say.
There we go, $5.45. Woohoo! 20 cents less a liter is awfully nice. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't necessarily think the carbon tax is a bad thing. It's part of, you want good stuff, you got to pay for good stuff. I'd like a good environment. I don't mind paying for a good environment.
I went to get gas this morning and then the prices went down right away. And then I checked online and they're down now, so then I'm filling up. I've been holding off on getting gas for about 2 weeks. So it doesn't make a big difference, but I was like, I'll hold off on filling up until it comes off.
I didn't know. Just we have to gas up anyways, no matter what.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see a little bit of a change, that's for sure. It seems like it's been locked in at that one price for a while now. But I thought it was April Fool's at first, of course. Look at the weather out here. But yeah, no, it's nice to see a little bit of a change.
I actually, sadly, don't pay too much attention because I need to put gas in the car. So I just fill up and I put in what I've got, and that's that.
I didn't notice until I came to the pump. I kind of feel like we have limited options. So if you need fuel, you need fuel at whatever price it is. But it is quite interesting to see it drop so much. 178.9 for regular is quite refreshing, and I didn't expect it to get down that low that quickly this far north.
It's great. I think we probably need that for the average consumer because it's going to affect basically everything. So anyone that's struggling out there will definitely need that little extra income to help them get by. So I think it's great.
Nunavummiut will also see a drop in fuel prices. Gasoline for vehicles went down about 18 cents a liter, while diesel is down around 21 cents. The MLA for Arvik South says it's good news for hunters.
It'll make quite a big difference. Generally, Nunavut, when they want to go hunting, the price of gas is high, but they still need to go out and they want to get their country food. Now the price of gasoline it is lower now. Like that extra money they save on buying gasoline, they could use it for other stuff that they need.
On my first day as Prime Minister, I ended the consumer carbon tax. Today, that change takes effect.
Liberal leader Mark Carney is taking credit for the drop in gas prices. Scrapping the carbon tax was his first act as Prime Minister. He's also promising a middle-class tax cut helping first-time home buyers afford a home and expanding dental coverage to more Canadians. Carney also met with Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew before holding a rally in Winnipeg. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre made the tax a central part of his platform. He's claiming the Liberals will reinstate the full tax with no rebate after the election, and promising to also end the remaining industrial price on carbon. Poilievre spent today campaigning in Newfoundland, talking about expanding the energy sector.
We're going to unleash the production of our resources. We're going to support doubling oil and gas production here in Newfoundland and Labrador. We're going to back the offshore by repealing C-69, the No New Pipelines law, repealing the energy cap, repealing the entire carbon tax.
Poilievre promised to enact 5 recommendations put forward by the country's energy sector if his party forms government. And he pledged to end Canada's dependence on the U.S. market in the face of Donald Trump's tariffs.
Our Canadian healthcare system is not for sale and will never be for sale. New Democrats will ensure that.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says his party will fight against healthcare privatization in Canada. He's pushing back against what he called American-style healthcare during a campaign stop in Edmonton. He says the NDP would ban American corporations from buying up Canadian healthcare facilities and promised to crack down on clinics that charge Canadians for basic services. The Conservative Party of Canada has announced its candidate for Nunavut, James T. Ariak. Ariak is the Vice President of Corporate Services at the Kudlik Energy Corporation. According to his QEC profile, he was also a political advisor to Nunavut Premier PJ Akiaga. And the Liberal Party of Canada has also announced its candidate for Nunavut. Kilikpak Kabluna will be representing the party in the election. She's currently the Chief Executive Officer at NTI. Hunters in Nunavut are calling for a reassessment of Baffinland's project that would see a port and railway built at Steensby Inlet. It was approved more than a decade ago, and it's part of the company's proposed expansion of an iron ore mine near Igloolik. Samuel Watt has that story.
Steensby Inlet is a special place for Judah Sapanuk.
Ever since I can remember as a little kid, we used to camp there for weeks and months at a time.
Now Baffinland wants to ship iron ore from its existing Mary River mine through that area. It proposes to do so via a railroad south to a port by Steensby Inlet that could see shipping through Fox Basin year-round, with Igloolik and Sunny Rayak nearby. But Sapanuk says that area is full of wildlife.
If they start building soon, we're gonna lose part of our hunting grounds.
That project was approved in 2012. Sapanuk says environmental conditions and the climate have changed a lot since then, so he wants a reassessment before the project can proceed. That is required under federal law if a project hasn't begun within 5 years, but the federal government says the port and railway falls under the existing Mary River project and that has commenced. Meanwhile, Baffinland says it's been collecting baseline data since 2006 and the IQ knowledge it says it's been gathering has no expiry date.
When these studies were done, there was a moratorium on hunting and very few caribou nearby.
Warren Bernauer says the government is obligated to get consent from Inuit under the United Nations Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act, and Baffinland needs to do the same.
They can ship for almost the entire season, ice breaking and whatnot, through Steensby Inlet in their existing project certificate.
And that's concerning hunters south of Igloolik as well.
These walruses are sensitive and quickly draw away from noise. Even when they're not being hunted, they drift away quickly.
The Government of Canada says it isn't ruling out amendments to the project. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Communities in the Northwest Territories' South Slave region are back on hydropower after almost 2 years of burning diesel. The Northwest Territories Power Corporation announced that the Tulsan Hydro Dam is once again providing power to the region. The facility was shut down in May of 2023 for a major overhaul. Tulsan powers Hay River, Fort Smith, Fort Resolution, Enterprise, and the Katlodeche First Nation. The communities were initially supposed to be on diesel power for 6 months, but the 2023 wildfires and problems during the recommissioning delayed the return to hydropower. The overhaul is expected to cost just over $115 million. It's day 2 of a coroner's inquest in Kimmirut, Nunavut. Today, witnesses testified about what happened to the man before his death. TJ Deer tells us what they said.
A warning that this story contains details relating to a death by suicide. One of the witnesses that testified today is the aunt of George Arluktu. She said she was very close with him and that she would spend time with him every day. She said just before he took his own life, Arluktu had 2 guns with him and was worried he would hurt himself. She was able to take them after Arluktu said he was scared. Arluktu later barricaded himself in a shack. His aunt said she tried to speak with him through the door and asked to be let in to speak with him, but he wouldn't open the door. Arluktu's aunt said he was scared of going back to jail. She said she overheard the 2 RCMP officers who responded tell Arluktu that they wanted to take him to the local health center. She said one officer told Arluktu that he would bring the mental health nurse because he didn't want to go to the health center alone. But the officer came back with what she called heavy equipment. She said the officers then banged on the door until it opened and brought Arluktu out after a short amount of time. They then put him in a truck and drove him to the health center. Proceedings finished early today and will resume tomorrow morning. TJ Deer, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The search continues for a man missing from Inuvik. Lance Breyer was last seen on February 8th. His parents are coordinating a search and asking the community for help. The CBC's Des Loreen has more.
Lance Breyer's family hasn't given up their search to find him. He was last seen in Inuvik on February 8th. His mother pleads to the community for information on where her son went.
He's loved by so many people. There's at least one person out there that knows what happened to him. There has to be at least one person that knows what happened to him. Just please come forward and, phone Crime Stoppers.
The RCMP and local search and rescue groups have also looked for Lance. A Facebook group called Bring Lance Home is now collecting information for ground searches.
Please just don't give up. Don't stop searching. I just want to hold my son again. I want to hear his voice. I want to look at his face. Let's work together. Let's get united, and let's remember that this is a human being.
Lance was working at the Gwich'in Wellness Camp as a cook when he went missing. He was last seen with a black snowmobile. His mother asks anyone with drones to look around Inuvik and report their findings to the authorities. Des Loreen, CBC News, Inuvik.
The claims period for 2 classes in the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement is now open.
First Nations children who were removed from their homes on reserve between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022, and their caregiving parents and caregiving grandparents can now submit a claim for compensation.
There are free supports to help you fill out your form.
And mental health and wellness supports if you need them.
Learn more and submit your claim at fnchildclaims.ca.
If alcohol builds a wall around you, know this. We're here to help if you want us to. It's never too early or too late to ask for help with a drinking problem. Alcoholics Anonymous. There is a way out.
I was fighting losing battles with opponents disguised as friends, and coming home to a different fight that never ends. I saw no other choice. I had to leave a roof for the rain. But sometimes I wonder if there was a path with more to gain. Maybe the opportunities would have been better, and every day would take me further towards something greater.
To help create new paths for youth experiencing homelessness, the Home Depot Canada Foundation is committing $125 million by 2030.
Just shake your boots and let it all get loose.
stolen vehicle in West Africa.
Jumped in a car and then off they went.
I want my truck back. 300% increase in auto theft.
300%.
It's organized crime, well-financed.
They are selling vehicles that are insecure.
They're working on it.
We hear that from a lot of automakers.
Yeah.
We think we found your car.
Oh my goodness.
You are finally here.
Come on! Just talk to me.
Woo!
All you have to do is look.
Nothing can stand in your way. Are you still nervous?
No, not anymore.
The Yukon will soon have a new Residential Tenancies Act. It sets the rules for rental properties in the territory. But not everybody thinks the changes are a good idea. Gabrielle Plonka has the details.
The new Residential Tenancies Act was introduced earlier this spring. The Yukon government says its goal is to equalize the balance of power between landlords and tenants. But Yukoners on both sides of the equation told CBC they don't feel empowered by the changes.
The changing rules and the poor implementation of those have been quite difficult for me to keep up with.
Guthrie purchased a property with tenants 5 years ago because it was the only way she could afford to buy a house. She inherited tenants who paid way below market rate. Then the rent cap was introduced and trapped her there. She's been playing catch up ever since. She says the new act is not going to help.
I think the rent caps are still restrictive. They are tied to the consumer price index. The CPI, in my opinion, is not reflective of the costs that I'm experiencing.
She's talking about utility fees, property taxes, and volatile interest rates. And then beyond finances, she also takes issue with the black and white rules for no-cause eviction. As a landlord with a young child who shares a house with her tenants, she wants more flexibility when there's safety concerns.
If you have a tenant that is confrontational, it's much easier to just say, hey, here's 6 months notice. There's no particular reason I'm looking to point to.
On the other hand, CBC heard from a tenant who was evicted in 2023. They've been intermittently homeless ever since. They said their eviction wasn't reasonable and the act didn't help. CBC has agreed not to disclose their name.
It is not an equitable act. It is not an easily accessible act for tenants. Sometimes tenants who are in low-income housing can be greatly abused by landlords, by corporate entities.
The former tenant wants to see more protections for tenants in the new act, like rules for evidence so landlords can't lie about the reasons for eviction, legal or administrative supports for self-represented tenants, and security provisions to help tenants who are evicted suddenly go back and get their stuff before the landlord is permitted to dispose of it. The new Residential Tenancies Act is being debated in the Legislative Assembly. It's expected to pass this spring. Gabrielle Plonka, CBC News, Whitehorse.
A fire at Yellowknife's Sunridge apartment building has left residents looking for answers. They say they still haven't been allowed back into their units. In the 5 days since the fire, the building owner, Northbeat April, has not spoken publicly. It's been silent about the fire and what it's doing to get people back home. The CBC's Avery Zingle reports.
On Thursday afternoon, smoke billowed from the first floor here at Sunridge Apartments. All of its residents now unable to access their homes and belongings. The entire lower floor of this 25-unit building is boarded up, and the owner, Northview REIT, has remained silent on the fire. Housing NWT spokesperson Aurora Nin says that they leased 5 units from this complex. She said displaced public housing tenants were moved to hotels over the weekend. She says on Monday, Yellowknife Housing Authority staff were actively looking for replacement units, and local housing organizations do not have access to Sunridge. She says the fire chief informed Northview that the building must be vacated and that it's Northview that's responsible for removing fire debris. Stacia Keene is the City of Yellowknife's Manager of Economic Opportunities and Developments. She says the Public Safety Director does not have authority to decide if or when tenants can return, and she says only the building owner, Northview REIT, can grant access to the building. Northview REIT did not return multiple phone calls. It's unclear how many people occupied their 25 units. Approached by CBC yesterday, staff in the Yellowknife office said they had no comment. Their manager was also not available to speak with us. On Monday, 2 workers were here at Sunridge running security on the building. They say Northview instructed them not to speak to media. They were unable to comment on the state of the building and what caused the fire. Avery Zingle, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Yukon Medical Association wants to negotiate compensation for all doctors in the territory, not just some of them. And it's backing an NDP bill that would change that. Right now, the association doesn't represent doctors who have their own contracts with the government. The bill would make the YMA the sole bargaining agent for Yukon doctors. The association's president says that will ultimately lead to more access to care.
Well, I think it's important for physicians because physicians are not negotiators, and individual physicians, don't go into medicine to have to spend the time that it takes to understand legal jargon and negotiate their own individual contracts. And there's certainly challenges with that at an individual level. At a systems level, I think Yukon doctors recognize that we are in a very siloed system as a result of these different negotiation models. And the result is that there is these inequities across the board in how physicians are paid and how physicians work that really have a negative impact on what it means to work in the Yukon. So to give an example, there are currently places or there have been places in the Yukon previously where 2 physicians doing the exact same job would have negotiated different contracts and would have been paid differently for the exact same work. And that, you can imagine, just creates a really negative work environment that we think has a very significant impact on recruitment and on retention.
Bill 310 would also establish a dispute resolution process and provisions for binding arbitration. Discussions around the bill will continue this month in the Yukon Legislative Assembly. It may not feel like it quite yet, but today actually marks the official start of wildfire season in the Yukon. Seasonal crews began reporting back to work this morning, and before we know it, there will be fires in the northern boreal forest. But government officials and researchers say it's still too early to predict when fires will begin and how bad the season could be.
I think for us, in some ways, it's like having a door in the forest. You walk through the door and you're still kind of in the forest, because April 1st is the statutory regulatory day when fire season starts, regardless of the weather. So for some people, it might seem like a bad April Fool's Day joke for us to say there's snow on the ground, you have to call in your private burning. But for us, this is what the law says we have to do. In other ways, it feels like the first day of school because, like you said, those of us who've been here over the winter are going to be joined again by our seasonal colleagues, and we get to see that energy start to take shape again on our bases across the territory and at our headquarters and our air tanker bases. So it's a chance for us to start looking at our staff and getting ready for the season ahead.
Last year, the Yukon got off relatively easy when it came to fire season. In the Northwest Territories, the fire season doesn't officially begin until May 1st. And as the days get longer and warmer, trumpeter swans are making their way north to the Yukon. Residents have been celebrating the return of the swans for years. Swan Haven at McClintock Bay on Marsh Lake is a great place to watch the annual migration. They return to the open water to feed and rest. Wildlife viewing specialist Karen McCall explains why.
Yeah, Marsh Lake and McClintock Bay has open water 4 to 6 weeks earlier than a lot of other lakes in the region, and that's because of the big lake outlet at Marsh Lake. It brings up the warm water to the surface and it creates this open water, which we also see at the Intagish and Carcross and other areas at the big outlets of these large lakes.
If you miss one of the many Swanhaven events happening this month, there is a new pre-recorded audio tour available at Swanhaven for visitors. People can scan QR codes with their mobile phones to listen in. Now let's take a look at your weather. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
What kind of Canada do we want for our kids and our grandkids? I want a Canada that works for you. But Mark Carney spent his career hurting workers to make money for the powerful. He made life harder for families and easier for big corporations. And Pierre Poilievre, he wants us to be the US in everything but name. I want a Canada that works for you, where we fix our public health care, get your costs down. Let's protect our kind of Canada. That's worth fighting for.
I was fighting losing battles with opponents disguised as friends, and coming home to a different fight that never ends. I saw no other choice. I had to leave a roof for the rain. But sometimes I wonder if there was a path with more to gain. Maybe the opportunities would have been better, and every day would take me further towards something greater.
To help create new paths for youth experiencing homelessness, the Home Depot Canada Foundation is committing $125 million by 2030.
In your once stolen vehicle in West Africa.
That is crazy. Jumped in a car and then off they went.
I want my truck back. 300% increase in auto theft.
300%.
It's organized crime, well-financed.
They are selling vehicles that are insecure.
They're working on it.
We hear that from a lot of automakers.
Yeah.
We think we found your car.
Oh my goodness.
Does public transit really need more police officers? And so this is it.
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
It is now believed that Titan was destroyed. It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it?
All of this, just single detached homes.
Yes.
What do we know? How is that even possible? Well, with a little bit of help, I think we can explain it.
About that with Andrew Chang.
One good scheme deserves another.
Stay on him.
I feel we may be in for a challenging few days.
Cheers. Cheers.
$12 new records for a penny.
Sounds too good to be true.
It's not a scam. Cancel anytime. It's all in the fine print.
You're going to end up on the hook for a lot more.
You think I'm stupid? I used your name to sign up.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org